Hello and welcome. If you don't know who I am, my name is Tea Leaves. I am an artist here on YouTube and also on Instagram. But for this video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my sketching process and what I do when I fill up my sketchbooks. So I really wanted to do just like a super honest filling of my sketchbook. This is just a drawing of two of my OCs. On the left is Joe and on the right is Aaron. I just got, for Christmas, my mom got me these pose books that I had really been wanting. I'll throw up a picture of them here. I've been wanting them for ages, and I am very excited that I finally have them. So I chose a pose from the book. I will also insert that. And I just decided to practice and draw it as some of my OCs because I thought that this pose really represented their relationship pretty well. Felt like this pose really represented their relationship really well because Aaron's like kind of a flirty person and Jonah does not respond very well to it. He comes around in the end though. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the actual process and what I'm doing in the video. My sketching is super messy. It's always been very messy and I get a lot of flack from my professors about I do chicken scratch when I sketch, and there's like a huge controversy around chicken scratch right now on Instagram, and it's a little disheartening, especially to like beginner artists, because that's how a lot of artists learn how to draw. And I know that it's not beneficial. It is it's really detrimental if like you've been drawing for this long and you still do chicken scratch, because you should have like line confidence and everything. But unfortunately I'm set in my ways, and I've actively been trying to be more confident with my lines, but it's a slow battle and I'm definitely losing. My sketching process is very back and forth. Like I'll draw some lines and then I won't like it and then I'll draw it again and I'll carve it out. Like I tend to go like very big and sketchy, and then I erase away the lines that I don't like and then to keep the ones that I do. Hair is one of my favorite things to draw, especially Jonah's hair, just because it's so big and poofy and it's like super messy. I really love drawing these like big waves like this, especially in short hair where it's all, I like to draw like little points of the hair. It's just my favorite way to draw. Oh, I accidentally lost no, I didn't lose the footage. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't lose the footage. I started recording the first like 15 minutes of the sketch on the wrong side, so my hand was covering the sketch the entire time. So I ended up having to completely switch my recording setup to the other side so they could actually see what was happening. So that's why when the video starts, I'm like already have their bodies laid out. I really like drawing from references and pose books and stuff, because not only is it a really, really great way to learn, it helps you build those fundamentals so that you can understand how shapes work and how bodies work, so then it helps you more in the future with drawing without a reference. I've been really enjoying drawing from reference lately. Like in my sketchbook video, I will link that up top. In my sketchbook tour video, I talk about how I use a lot of melon soup poses, and she is amazing. If you don't know her, you should definitely check her out on Instagram and on Pinterest. She just posts pose references like daily, and they're absolutely phenomenal. But I had been wanting these pose books that Karina Farrick recommended from Drawfee, and they're super cool. I have never had a resource like this before, so I was very excited to really get to work with it in my sketchbook. Drawing from reference can be really difficult if you don't know what you're looking for though. Like one of the hardest parts when you first start drawing from reference is figuring out how to interpret the shapes into your style or into a non-realistic like drawing, because it's kind of difficult to break things down until you like learn how to do it properly. Like another one of the books that I got for Christmas is the Morpho book. I will throw up a picture of it here, but it shows like anatomy and how to understand the human form like in artist terms rather than like super like anatomical like scientific terms. And it really emphasizes like the shapes and stuff. So I think that that's an awesome resource. I really can't wait to read it. I've already read some of it, and like I've done some studies from it and drawn some of the examples and stuff. But it's super interesting, like the way that they break down the body and they make it super easy to understand the shapes. So like doing studies like that are one of the most beneficial things, I think, to like bettering your art and your sketching and just your understanding of anatomy, or morphology as the book calls it. It takes a lot of time and practice, and I'm like by no means the best, but I'm not scared to work from reference. I really love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. I am freaking struggling. I struggled so hard with this arm, and then in the pose, it was a man and a woman pose, and the lady had her legs like super tight together, and I just knew that Aaron would not sit like that. So I had to kind of make it up at the bottom and kind of figure out how his legs went. I had to cut out so much footage. There was like 10 minutes of footage of just me drawing and redrawing his leg before like I sped it up. It was absurd. So I cut out like 10 minutes of footage of just me trying, and eventually I just gave up, and I go back to it later. Like, here I am trying again. I think that, I don't know if this is the final one that I keep. I think I erase it again and try again. It was pretty much a nightmare, but I'm pretty happy with the final pose. I think that the perspective is a little wonky on his legs, but I mean, you know, there's always something to improve for next time. Ooh, okay, so here I'm pulling out my Ohuhu markers. I love my Ohuhu markers. I am so happy with them. I've been using Copics for years, and I finally had to get new markers because I had been using them for 5 years and they were all almost completely dried out, and I just don't have the money to like buy all of the refills, so I ended up just buying a pack of the Ohuhu markers, and I love them. My only complaint with them, I got the 120 brush pack, but I'm a little frustrated that there's kind of minimal skin tones, or like varied skin tones. Like there's a few light shades and then there's a few dark shades. So I have to do a lot of layering to really get skin tones that I like. And then usually they're still not quite right. Like when I draw Jonah digitally, his skin is a little darker than it is when I draw him traditionally, just because like I don't have the right tone for his skin. So it's a little frustrating. But I mean, overall, they're really great markers. I highly recommend them if you have never used them before, especially as like an alternative to other really expensive brush markers. They are really great. They have a really great color range. I also love that they give you the little sheet so that you can test all of them, just because like this is kind of an issue with most alcohol markers, but particularly with Ohuhu markers, their caps never match what they actually look like on the inside, which is fine because they give you the sheet. But like specifically for R8, which is I think geranium, yeah, it's like a super dark red. It's like a rusty barn red, but then the cap of the marker is like a bright like fire hydrant red. So I always reach for that one because the color of the cap is the color of Aaron's eyes, so I always reach for it, and then I have to remember that it's like super dark. It throws me off, so I always keep the sheet handy to make sure that I'm using the right colors. So here, this is also really frustrating. I can never find like a good blonde color in like big packs like this. I feel like it's always too yellow or too brown. But this, hang on, this is my absolute favorite marker for blonde hair. It is the Winsor & Newton brush marker in the color Champagne. It's Y217. It is amazing. You can see in the video, it's like the brush has gone so soft because I use it so much, but there's still ink in it. The brush is like super limp. But that is my all-time favorite brush or marker for coloring blonde hair. I feel like it's like the perfect platinum blonde, and then I typically use like a warmer and a cooler tone to push and pull it, but it's like the perfect base. Like another one of my OCs, Elliot, has blonde hair. He has bleach blonde hair, and I love to use that for him as well, but his is more yellow, but Aaron's is more like platinum blonde, so I tend to use like cooler undertones to shade it. I really love coloring in Aaron's overgrowth. So in the story, once somebody is turned into a vampire, their hair growth, it doesn't stop, but it just goes super, super slowly. So the grow out that he's had is like representative of how long he's been a vampire, because you can't really alter your hair once you have been turned. So he just has like this really awful grow out from before he turned into a vampire. And it always makes me laugh when I see it, just because in the story, Jonah literally comments on how shitty his dye job is. But I think it's so cute. I love it so much. Oh, this is like my favorite color. I think it's the Y3, whatever. Yeah, it's the Y3, the barium yellow. It is like my favorite color yellow in the Ohuhu pack. It's so pretty. It's like the perfect like sunflower sunshine yellow. It's one of my favorite colors in general. I love yellows and greens. But yeah, I kind of wanted to also talk a little bit about the characters themselves, because I am not great about talking about my OCs on the internet. Like, I've posted them on Instagram. I post them pretty consistently, but I haven't really talked about their story too much. So Jonah on the left, he is the main character of a webcomic that I am writing. He can see ghosts. That's the whole premise. He has like this ability to see ghosts and speak to ghosts and kind of like sense energies and stuff. And he and his mom move across the country after his parents get divorced, and he ends up moving into a house that is haunted, and he makes friends with the ghost there, and he tries to help him figure out who killed him and help him kind of find peace in his afterlife. And then the character on the right, his name is Aaron. He is a vampire that lives in the town, and he kind of shows Max and Joe. Max is the ghost that haunts the house. He kind of shows Max and Joe the ropes, and he introduces them to like the supernatural side of the world, because that's something that neither one of them have really experienced before. So he basically acts as like their tour guide into the supernatural. I cut out all of the footage of me painstakingly like choosing, I use like a billion different markers to color in all of Joe's patches. It ended up just being so like often on the screen that it was super distracting. I ended up just cutting it all out. But I love picking different colors to do patches and pins, because I like having the variation, and it helps to bring in other colors to an otherwise pretty bland color palette. Like, Jonah has purple hair, but the majority of his outfit's black. Like, his jacket is like a dark gray, almost black, and then his pants are black. And then Aaron wears a leather jacket and jeans. So it's a pretty like dark drawing. So I really like to bring in those pops of color on his jacket. I really love drawing the MLM flag. It's, I think, one of the prettiest pride flags. So I always put it on Joe's jacket, and I think that I have like the perfect colors in the Ohuhu pack to color it. It always looks so good. It makes me so happy. Also, I don't know why I colored this like this. I colored it in such a weird way. I'm still trying to figure out how I like to color jackets like this, just because I know that it's black, but I don't want to just go over it with a straight black marker, because then there's no color variation. You can't get good shading. So I end up going over it with like this middle gray, and then trying to put in shadows and like layer it up, and I end up having to color over it like 3 different times trying to get the right color, just because like I just don't want to go in with a straight black. And so finally I like settle on this kind of warm brown, and then I shade it with almost a black. It's like a really, really dark, not brown, gray. It's a warm gray. But it gets pretty close. I kind of like the idea of it being like not quite black and being a little faded, just because he wears it so much. But that makes sense to me. It's coloring in black clothes is one of the most difficult things, and it's really hard when you're emo and all of your clothes are black and all of your characters wear black clothes, because it's so difficult to like get the right colors and stuff. Oh, I'm not very good at it, but I do love drawing his leather jacket because I make it like really shiny. I would like to improve that more and practice drawing like leather, and specifically drawing his orange jacket more, just because it's really cool. It's a really cool texture. Like it has this like reflective nature about it, just because it, like, leather is shiny. I'm not very good at capturing it, but it's it's still really fun for me to draw. If I had a working jelly roll pen, like a white jelly roll, I used one at the end of the video. It's like completely out of ink. The ones that I have, they just don't work. I can never get them to work right. But if I end up getting one that works properly, then I will definitely, I would like to practice drawing leather more, just because it's a really, really fun, like, I really do like doing lighting and stuff. So here I ended up deciding that I wanted Joe to have rips in his jeans, just because I felt like I just knew that it was going to be a huge area of just like basically straight black again, and I wanted to bring in some contrast. I also really love drawing rips in the jeans. It's just so much fun. I get more into it once I do the line art, but I'm just kind of like blocking everything in here. I really prefer to color in before I do the line art, because I'm super weird. The kind of pen that I use for line art, and I'll show it, the kind of pen that I use from line art is just like a normal like ballpoint pen. It's just my favorite. It's the Bic Gelosity, I think, pen. It's just so good. It doesn't come off with alcohol. I can color over it with alcohol markers and my Tombow like water-based markers, and it does not budge. It dries basically instantly. And also, I feel so much less pressure when I'm doing line art with it than when I'm using like a micron pen or something, just because it feels so much less serious that I can be more expressive with it. So I end up getting like way better line quality, just because I'm enjoying the process a lot more. It's just a lot more fun because there's less stress. Line art is probably one of my favorite things to do, especially since I figured out like how much I love working with this pen, just because it feels pretty low stress to me. Like the coloring is the kind of stressful part, just making sure that everything looks correct, but then I can just go in and do like super expressive, like scratchy lines with this pen. I feel like it really helped my art a lot when I stopped stressing so much about line art, because that was always something I was super concerned about, like making sure I have the perfect line art. I spent an ungodly amount of money on like micron pens and like fancy liners, and then I end up figuring out that just this this stupid ballpoint pen is what helps me produce the best art. And it's not like the most clean line art or anything. Like if I'm doing something for an assignment in class, or if I'm doing something for like a commission or professional work, I do use like a better quality liner than just this pen. But just for in my sketchbook, it's perfectly fine. I love watching. The lines just end up being so good with it. And they're not perfect, but they're so expressive. I had to take a break and get some water. My throat was getting so dry from just rambling. But I think that using the pen to add texture is also really important. Like I really love it when drawings are textured or like shaded a little bit with line, like a little bit of cross hatching here and there. I think that adds a lot of interest, like visual interest and texture to a drawing that it just lacks without it. Like I love doing line art so much. It's one of my, I cannot sketch with pen. I have tried sketching with pen. I went through phases where I would just draw exclusively with pen, and I just didn't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. I get really frustrated because the sketch never looks how I want it to, and I can't refine it properly. And then, cause like I sketch super scratchy, so it ends up just looking super messy, versus like I have friends that go in and just straight with pen and Sharpie and do doodles in their sketchbook, and they look phenomenal. That's just not me. Maybe I'll get there one day, but for now, it's not me. This is another one of my favorite things to do. So I love drawing the stitches on patch jackets and patches and stuff. I have multiple patch jackets of my own, and it's one of my, I figured out like drawing them is so much fun. So I really like to make like alternative characters and give them patches that I feel like match their personality and their identity and stuff. It's a really, really easy way and a fun way to show who your character is and just give a little bit about them as a person without really having to talk about it. They just kind of show it. And I think that that's really representative of a person in general. If they're willing to like put their interests and the things that they care about and things about themselves and literally wear them on their sleeves, it definitely says a lot about that person as well. I always get so excited when I go places, like if I go to a show or something and other people are wearing battle jackets and patch jackets. It's so cool to see what other people like are super passionate about and they deem cool enough or something that they care about enough to literally sew onto a piece of clothing. Here I am doing the jeans. I love doing rips and jeans. So I typically just do, when I'm working on my sketchbook, I just do like a solid color background. I'm not very happy. I love the color. Don't get me wrong. I love the color that I chose. I feel like it complements everything really well. But I feel like I need to go back and add more just because I feel like the background doesn't cover enough. It's a little too messy for my taste. But it was just, I mean, at the end of the day, I was really just practicing a pose and trying to work out character dynamics. But yeah, here I am struggling with this stupid pen. I always try. I try to get it to work and it never does. So I just give up. Okay, so here's the final drawing. I am pretty happy with it. I went back and I kind of corrected some things. I just added a little bit more line art, but I'm happy with it. It was definitely a fun exercise. I definitely plan to do more of these kinds of drawings, like using the pose references and turning them into my characters in the future, and I'll definitely post more of those on Instagram. Let me know if you want to see me do another video like this of me sketching a pose like this and talking about my characters and stuff. I plan to do a video in the future just talking about my story and more in depth on the characters and their relationships with one another and their place in the story and everything. So let me know if you want to hear about that. Anywho, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. I will see you guys soon. Bye!